A dear friend of mine, Bishop Robert McElroy, he's the auxiliary bishop in San Francisco, he once wrote an article for American Magazine, and he titled it, "Prudence, the Charioteer of the Virtues." Could either of you say something about the virtue of prudence and how this plays into faithful citizenship and just the whole idea of prudence as a virtue?
And the idea of prudence within faithful citizenship is that, as you said, we don't get to just look at the mailer and say that's the one because I like their mailer best, or they're the most attractive, or someone I heard on TV likes them. Prudence is thoughtful research. It's a process of coming to your decision, and you are responsible for making sure that your decisions are based on a longer thought process than just, well, I got to vote. I don't know who either of these people are. I'm just picking the one who's the party that I like. And prudence is really thinking through your choices, making sure you understand what your choices are, and then trying to make the best choice you can based on what you know about the candidates and also what you understand to be Catholic teaching.
And it may be because I'm an academics and a researcher, but I like to gather information. I can give a personal example of this. One of the things I've been struggling with the last couple of months was some of the things that tie into the political aspects with the HHS mandate. And so I, as being a member of the Peace and Justice Commission, went to Jean and was asking her opinion and getting some more information there. I talked to I talked to both friars at the Newman Center about these issues, trying to get more information. Talked with some family members and friends that I really respect to gather information, not to have people tell me what to think and believe, but so that I could weigh their information, look at the evidence, the data, and come to my own decision. Because the way I view it, and thinking with prudence, it's not that you as the bishop or my priest or my family members are going to be standing at the end of time in front of God and Jesus having to say, what did you do? It's going to be me. So I need to be making the best decisions I can in the best way I can. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that trying to get more information will cut some lenience with some of my poorer decisions.
Exactly. Well, of course, the more information you have, the better decision you can make. But I hear you saying also that there becomes a time when you have to put the prudence into action and make a decision. And we're not going to always be correct. We're going to make some decision, move for a candidate, for example, and it turns out that we were wrong. And we learn from our mistakes. We try to analyze it and be open and humble enough to admit them and to move forward. And I think that's very important. And I think it's also, and I think that the document, the letter, the Faithful Citizenship, brings out that the importance of looking at, as you just suggested, Dr. White, the different aspects. So, for example, as a Catholic, I look at how is this issue influencing my relationship with God? How does it influence the people, the community? How do the teachings of the church weigh in on it? What the teachings have to say about it? I look at my own compass, my internal compass, what's valid in my own life. I think it's so important to do that because sometimes someone may say something, I said, this doesn't ring true. And then the more I get the research, the more I look into it, then I start to formulate having an informed opinion. And of course, this does not mean that people of goodwill won't disagree. Of course they will. There are certain matters that are open to debate that we just have in the United States. We just have to keep working on. Others are not. Others are much clearer. There are certain non-negotiables, so to speak, that we understand. We live our lives by as Catholics. The sanctity of life, for example, and the dignity of the human person, and so they're treating everybody with respect and dignity, and regardless of where they come from, or if they have an accent or not, or what religion they are, etc. So these are all important considerations. And I think what it boils down to, too, though, is the whole idea of having a certain humility. And sometimes I notice that that's lacking in some of our political conversations, if you can call them that, being kind. That to have the humility to listen, to be a good listener, and to really hear what people are saying, and not to be won over by, you know, these super PACs now we have, you know. I think that, you know, by spending a lot of money and saturating the media with all these advertisings can definitely influence his votes, but it could very well be that this is really wrong-headed, and we need to resist such efforts. So, is there anything that you'd like to bring out that we haven't covered yet regarding faithful citizenship? Anything that struck you about the document that you found helpful?
Well, I think I keep going back to the idea that it's not a listing of scorecard. It's not a here are the issues that you must vote for or vote against. It is, here's the information for you to make the decision based on Catholic teaching, Catholic tradition. I think another factor that I was struck by, again looking at the document, was that it talks about that this is for national. This is it's a guiding document, but again, it's the local bishops that have, the local bishops can suggest other materials, can put out other materials. If you're wanting to find information, make sure you are getting correct information. And that does not mean correct as it agrees with my thinking. It is correct in terms of being proposed, it's being promoted by the church leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Because, frankly, I think that church leaders can be incorrect at times in some of their thinking, and it is up to us as the church, the citizens, the body of the people, to also, if we think the church leader is being incorrect, to show and help educate and promote the church leader coming back to the fold in Catholic teachings and traditions. But it's not that the church leader dictates to us or we dictate to the church leader. It should be a dialogue, as you were talking about, and joking that political conversations can break down so quickly by labeling, by name calling, without real listening, without real conversation, without real dialogue for both parties or all parties to try to understand each other. One of the social justice teachings is respect for life and also respect and dignity of the human person.
Right.
To not listen to someone or treat them with respect seems to go against that very teaching. Mm-hmm. And all sides can engage in that.
Exactly. And just to be clear, I hear what you're saying, but in terms of church, like for example, the pastor of the parish, we're not talking about matters of faith and morals here. I mean, clearly those are well-established doctrine, sacred tradition, scripture. Our church leaders are very good about leading us in areas of faith and morals. We're talking about areas of like a voting issue, for example, going to the ballots to vote for a redistricting. We have that here in Utah, for example. And it's possible that, in talking about this, what is the best, the common good, etc., that the whole community, the pastor, as well as the parish council and the parishioners in general, and are talking about it, but that the leaders could be helped by the conversation, as can the people, because it's a two-way street. So it's in those matters that you're talking about, right? I want to make that very clear. Let's we're not talking about that. We know that the divine revelation is something completely different, and we're not talking about democratizing the church in that sense. So,
but as the document says, there's different ways to approach the same issue. So we have the baseline of we all know where we stand on some of those life issues. That's our baseline. How we solve the issue, right, we can have a conversation about it, and we need to listen to each other if we are actually going to solve it, because the hard line of either side on most issues isn't going to solve the issue. Mm-hmm. So unless we can have that really open conversation, and again with the beauty of the document, and I hope everybody takes the opportunity to read it before they vote, because it really does, it walks you through how to form your conscience. It walks you through Catholic social teaching related to those issues, and it walks you through some of the big issues and gives you you know, those basic concepts that you need to keep in mind as you're thinking through those issues for yourself. And it really takes, as we're being inundated with distilled messages from super PACs that make it all seem very easy, it really helps you do that process and make sure you understand an issue and make sure you understand a candidate before you just randomly vote based on what someone else has told you.
And that's a good rule of thumb, I think, Gene. I know it has been for me, and that is that you mentioned super PACs, trying to boil it down and make it simple. That if somebody in this process has made something very simple, too simple to be true, that's probably the case. That it is too simple to be true. That you cannot have a simple answer to complex questions, and that there is, you know, it is difficult to, and that's why we do need dialogue and we need to work together. I think also sometimes is, I found this, people who are on the same side of an issue can disagree with the strategy. How do you get to where you want to go? That could be a real issue as well, that we might all agree on a given point, but then how do we accomplish that goal? And what's the best way to do that? That could become, you know, thorny and contentious. Well, I want to thank you both very, very much. I think that this has been a wonderful exchange and helping us to get a little bit closer to understanding this wonderful letter of the bishops of the USCCB, Faithful Citizenship. Once again, do take a moment, and if you haven't already, do read the document. You can access it online by going to the usccb.org website and just follow the links, and or put in the search there just the title, Faithful Citizenship, and do take a moment to read it. I think you'll find it very helpful. You might also contact the Pastoral Center, ask for Mrs. Jean Hill, and she can also give you references and resources. You might also want to check with your parish, and it may very well be that your parish has some kind of a meeting, a group, adult education group, that would take up this issue, is taking up this issue. So I invite you to look into it, and to, for all of us as faithful Catholics, to really also be faithful citizens. God bless you, and thanks for joining us.